Hello and welcome to this video tutorial brought to you by tastytudes.com. In this tutorial I'm going to take a folder full of images and quickly change all their color profiles from RGB to CMYK. To do this I'm going to demonstrate two techniques. First I'm going to demonstrate how to create an action in Adobe Photoshop, and secondly I will demonstrate how to process a batch of images using Adobe Bridge. So here I have the folder full of RGB images and I want to convert them all to CMYK. Now for the sake of organization and backup, I am going to create a folder here called RGB and I'm going to move my images into this folder. So now I know all these images are RGB. Later I will be creating a CMYK folder and we will have new images in here all as CMYK. So I'm going to start in Adobe Photoshop and I'm going to create an action. An action is basically a recording of various steps taken in Photoshop. Once recorded, the action can be triggered with one click and save you a lot of time if you have to do the same thing many times to lots of images. So let's see how this is done. So I'm going to open up my assets folder and choose an image from the JPEG folder in the RGB folder. Right click and open in Photoshop. So now the image is open, I can go ahead and create my action. To create my action, I need the Actions panel visible. If you cannot see the Actions panel, then you can come up to Window, scroll down and activate the Actions panel here. So now I can see the Actions panel and in it I can see some folders. This is where I am going to create my new action. Notice I have some icons on the bottom of the panel, but at the moment they are all grayed out. So let's begin. First I will come to the top right of my Actions panel and click the drop-down menu. Then I will select New Action. Here I can name my action, which will be recorded, stored and allow me to use this again later, even if I close Photoshop and open it again in future. So I'm going to call this action RGB to CMYK. When you are ready, press record. Once you have pressed record, you will now notice the icons on the bottom of the panel are now visible, and I can currently see a red dot. This means I am now recording, so whatever action I take now is going to be recorded. Okay, so now come up to Image, Mode, and change the profile from RGB to CMYK. Now I need to come back to my Actions panel and click on the stop icon located on the bottom of the Actions panel. And that's it. You have created your action. So this action basically recorded me changing the color profile from RGB to CMYK. Quite simple. Now if I look in the Actions panel, I should now see the action I just created. So now it's a simple case of saving this image. Now I can either save and overwrite the image, but I want to keep a backup of the RGB images, so I will save as, create a new folder called CMYK and save it in here. Okay, so let's go back to my RGB image folder and open up another image. With the image open, if I come over to my Actions panel, make sure I have the action I want to use selected, press the play button, and Photoshop will then carry out that action and successfully change the image from RGB to CMYK. And again, I can save as and save it to the CMYK folder. So all I have to do now is open up all the images and apply this action to each one until all images are converted from RGB to CMYK. Now imagine you had 100+ images to process. As quick as that technique is, it could still take some time. There is another way to do this quicker using Adobe Bridge. It is important to note that the technique about to be shown uses Adobe Bridge and Photoshop. To use the following technique, you must first create an action in Photoshop. Now since I have already created the action in Photoshop, I can go ahead and use Bridge. So first I'm going to remove the CMYK folder I created earlier, as I'm about to create another one using Bridge. So I'm going to go ahead and open Adobe Bridge, and with Bridge open, I'm going to come to Window, Workspace, and click on Essential. If you do this, you should see the workspace layout just like mine. Okay, so now I want to navigate to my image folder using the menu system on the far left. Once I have located the folder and click on it, I will now see in the content panel, this one on the left, a series of thumbnails representing my images. If I click on one, I will see a larger example here in the preview panel. So over in the content panel, I can press Command A or Control A on PC to select all. Now in your preview panel, you will see a grid. By selecting all, I can come up to the top menu and I'm going to select Tools. Then scroll down to Photoshop and select Image Processor. For this, you will need Photoshop open, but if Photoshop is not open when you do this, it will automatically open it for you. So upon selecting Image Processor, up will appear a Properties box. And here we have 4 actions we need to address. So I'm going to start from the top. Number 1, select the image to process. We are going to leave this unchecked. I do not want to open an image first to apply settings. Number 2, select location to save process images. Here I can choose a destination where my new process images will be placed. So I'm going to click Select Folder, and I'm going to navigate to my JPEG Assets folder. So we can see the RGB folder, and I'm going to click the Create New Folder button. I will call this CMYK and click Create, then click Open. So with that set up, I can move on. Number 3, File Type. I'm going to make sure I have the Save JPEG box checked to match the current file format. I'm going to make sure the quality is 12 for best quality. I do not want to save as a PSD, so I will leave this unchecked. And I do not want to save as a TIFF, so again I will leave this unchecked. And lastly, number 4, Preferences. Now it's here where we are going to select the action we created previously in the video. So I need to check this box, then to the right of this, the selection options will become active. So the first option is to choose the folder where your action resides. We saved our action in the default actions folder, so I will leave this and move on to the next option. If I click this, I will then see a list of actions in the default actions folder. Depending on how many you have created in the past, this could be few or many. We now need to choose one. So I'm going to scroll down and select the action RGB to CMYK. Next, we don't need any copyright info for now, so I will leave this blank. And I'll leave the ICC profile checked. So with this setup, I will come up to the top right and click Run. Then what you will notice is Photoshop opening every image and carrying out the action automatically. So now if I look in the Assets folder, in the new CMYK folder, we will have a folder called JPEG. And in there, we will have a new set of images, and these will all be CMYK and ready to place in my InDesign document. So that is how you can quickly modify lots of images using an action in Photoshop and using image processing in Adobe Bridge. In this example, we simply changed the image profile from RGB to CMYK. Using this process, you could easily change image sizes, resolutions, formats, and so on. So once I'm happy with my images and feel they are all prepared correctly for my InDesign document, I can now start to build my composition in InDesign. Now I could go straight into InDesign and start to build my composition, but before that I want to think about the design. I want to think about how I'm going to set about creating and laying out my leaflet. So now I'm going to plan this on paper before I jump into Adobe InDesign. In the next video, I'm going to create a Scamp to plan and design my leaflet layout. Remember, if you wish to skip this video, you can. Links are in the description and PDF. So I'll see you in the next video.